What up? It's your boy T-Burn Reaction. Today is Wrestling Reaction. So, one thing about wrestling is you get a lot of equivalent or counterparts as well too. That a wrestler of a gimmick that's either closely resemble as well too, not necessarily a copycat, but a close resemblance to them as well too, whether it is because of the style of wrestling, the look, or even sometimes the move as well too. So we're gonna look at this video from Wrestling, and it's been a minute because some of these videos be pretty kind of long, and this was one of them as well too. And I was sure about because how long this stupidity of wrestling, which ended up being a 30-minute video. By me, the original is 9 minutes and 20 seconds, but when you have a passion for something, you gotta share your thoughts on it. It becomes longer, and some people want you to add something to the video as well too, because you got assholes who wanna give you shit for not adding to it as well too. Anyway, we're gonna get into counterparts, wrestling, modern equivalents. So. It's plenty of time I didn't compare one wrestler to another as a legendary as well too. Most recently, I would say it's definitely Miles Bourne is a counterpart of Orton as well. But anyway, let's get it. And LA Knight is a combination of both The Rock and Stone Cold. But let's get it.
Wrestling is cyclical.
There we go. Talked it up.
We're not just talking about waves of popularity here either. No, this can also apply to the performers in the ring. As whether it be through blood, inspiration, or any other number of factors, younger workers will occasionally serve as modern-day counterparts to older workers. But what are some of the biggest examples of this in the modern day?
And somebody literally said, Tatum Paxley recently lost the title, her North American title to Zari, and a lot of people, and she's speculated to possibly be called up to the main roster. A lot of folks wanted her to be a tag team with Alexa. That'd be a good little tag team. Whether I get to cheer them because their faces are boom because they heal. Man, let's keep going.
Exactly what we are going to be looking at right now, starting with Sol Ruca and Lita.
Yeah.
Yes, this comparison is obvious, as back in the day, Lita was one of the favorite wrestlers of almost everyone watching the show, largely because she had such a cool look and such a daredevil in-ring style. Basically, she was the female personification of skater culture, and this was why she was such a perfect fit once she was eventually paired up with the Hardy Boys to form Team Extreme. Yes, if you wanted to see a woman who could do a bunch of high-flying moves, all while looking like the kind of person you'd be...
I can't believe Spurs, but really let them came back like that. Yeah, Guzley and Love came back. Yes, I have the Knicks and Spurs game.
Hanging out with after school with your buddies, then Amy Dumas was it. And this allowed her to gain much in the way of success over the course of her career, with that including 4 runs as world champion. Obviously though, in 2026, Lita is all but retired. And that means the mantle of cool alternative extreme sportswoman has passed on to someone else, namely Sol Ruca. How did Sol get this spot?
Who have one of the best finisher in the women wrestling right now. She's got to polish up a little bit now. She's the main roster, but either way, I think she started more polished. And congratulate her being the new women's Intercontinental champion. She's definitely lovely, tough.
While by doing a lot of what her counterpart did to get over back in the day. And that includes not only pulling off some spectacular moves like the Soul Snatcher, but also by very much having that skater culture vibe to her, or at very least, the surfer vibe. And this has resonated with fans as people can tell when something is real, much in the same way that they could tell how real Lita felt back at the turn of the millennium.
Facts.
Really, the only question at this point is, will Sol Ruca go on to have the same level of success in the ring as Lita did? She's already had a run as Women's North American Champion, so we expect some more gold to eventually come her way. And now that she's been called up...
I think it's been before she won the title. Yeah, just before she won the title.
To Monday Night Raw, that gold will have to be either the Women's Intercontinental title or the WWE Women's title. Of course, she's not the only lady of modern-day WWE who will be searching for main roster gold soon enough, because one half of our next entry also seems like an inevitability for either the red or blue brand sooner rather than later. So let's talk about her now then, Tatum Paxley and her older counterpart, Alexa Bliss. What makes Tatum Paxley and Alexa Bliss such an easy comparison? Well, while both might have started out with more generic gimmicks down on the
Yeah,
NXT
I forgot
brand,
about
with
that.
the former being a member of the Diamond Mine and the latter being a glitter-loving cheerleader, eventually each discovered a spookier aspect of their personality, and this saw them go to even greater levels of success. Obviously then, in Alexa's case, that change occurred when she was courted by The Fiend back in 2020. It was here that after weeks and months of being tormented by the masked heel, she eventually transformed into his Herald, a character who now started showing more supernatural aspects in her own right. As for Tatum, well, she was never corrupted by The Fiend. She had a similar transition, as not long after her time in the Diamond Mine came to an end, the Dallas native started losing her mind more and more, with this being a degeneration that was tied to her love of Lyra Valkyria. It was around then that she herself started looking a lot more gothic, all while she was acting a lot more spooky. So it's easy to see the natural comparison between her and Little Miss Bliss at this point, especially as both women are known for their petite stature, a stature which makes them deceptive in what they're able to do in the ring. Honestly, while Alexa Bliss has since walked back on the spookier aspects of her gimmick and has now turned into more of a hybrid of what she was then compared with what she was originally, it's not too hard to imagine a near future where Tatum Paxley gets called up to the main roster and ends up teaming with the Ohio native. After all, the current pairing of Bliss and Charlotte Flair clearly isn't going to last forever.
Oh boy.
Though that one seems destined to end with one party turning on the other. And once that moment occurs, it'll leave the former women's champion free to take on a new partner, maybe in the form of a protege who she sees a lot of herself in. Yes, given how many comparisons can be made between them, the idea of Alexa and Tatum forming a long-term duo isn't outside the realms of possibility. Hell, we could see them dominating the women's tag team division in WWE. But we've talked a lot about the women so far, so let's move over to the men for a moment instead, as it's there we find our next pair of entries, and in their cases, it's not spookiness which unites them, rather, it's the sense of dominating power. That's right, it's time for us to talk about Oba.
This is very interesting that they feel like Oba's going to compart the Brock, which is very interesting. This is their feud right now.
Femi and Brock Lesnar. Yes, this is another one which is obvious to see, especially as the two are currently involved in a feud which very much feels like a passing of the torch moment.
I feel like
but then it's probably for the best that Brock passes the torch at this point because he's been wrestling for a long time now and is almost certainly getting towards the end stage of his career. Prior to that, though, he was easily the most dominating force in the industry for many years, with this being particularly true during his second run, where his sheer power and size made him the final boss of WWE. Hell, this was the man who famously ended The Undertaker's undefeated streak at WrestleMania. And after that, Lesnar was the guy who could always be called upon to show up a few times a year to send someone to Suplex City, in the process giving them a dragon to slay on their own route toward the top. That was certainly the role he played for Oba Femi in the lead up to WrestleMania 42. But in Femi's case, he was just as powerful as the Beast. And this meant when they stepped in the ring together, the rookie would effectively squash his opponent in a matter of minutes. So, even if their feud is still ongoing as of the time of this video's recording, because of that WrestleMania victory alone, the ruler has been able to cement the idea in fans' minds that he is the new version of Brock Lesnar and will be no doubt picking up his mantle in the years to come. But then why wouldn't he be? Because he has all the same presence and the same size.
Well,
the only difference is he's younger and has a lot less miles on the clock. That's right, with him just recently having left NXT where he was a two-time world champion, there's still plenty left for the Nigerian-born star to do, as his main roster career is only just beginning. That said, even if his path is only just beginning, the path forward looks clear. And that path tells a story of total domination. Honestly, like with the meteoric rise of the Beast back in the day, we wouldn't be surprised to see Oba in possession of a main roster world title by the time WrestleMania 43 is over. And after that, we could very easily envision him slipping into the spot of new final boss, the guy who everyone tries to prove themselves against, but who very few are ever able to actually beat or even hurt. Would our next pair of performers fall into that same category of dominating powerhouses? Not exactly, but they would fall into the category of people who serve as effective counterparts for one another. In their case, though, it's not just similarities in style which have led to this. No, it's blood, as our next entries are none other than Charlie Dempsey.
It's so funny about it. One of my friends, shout out to my boy Nitty, my boy Frank, my boy Franco, who thought was wondering why Charlie Dixon reminds of Regal. I learned on that's his son, because I guess he recognized because the name's different and all that. Well, I like that's because that's Regal's son. Yeah, he's definitely his father's son for sure, yo.
And William Regal, father and son duos. There's a proud history of them in wrestling, as on account of the secretive nature of things historically meaning a lot of outsiders were never allowed in, the industry has often been a family business.
Oh yeah, birthright.
So it is then that we've had a lot of guys taking over and carrying on from what their dads started, as has been the case with performers such as Cody Rhodes, Bret Hart, and The Rock, just to name a few. And that's also happening on NXT today, as it's down there that Charlie Dempsey is currently plying his craft as a member of Birthright, with this allowing him to work under the behind-the-scenes tutelage of his old man, William Regal.
Wow, so Nick's found a way to get the win.
His son over the years? Well, by imparting all the same methods he himself once learned back in the famous Wigan Snake Pit in England. And that's led to a situation where the pair unsurprisingly...
Was that Regal with the long-ass hair back then? Go back. Was that Regal? Hold on.
And William Regal. How has Regal taught his son over the years? Well, by imparting all the same methods he himself once learned.
Look at Regal with the long hair back then. That's crazy. That's crazy, though.
That's led to a situation where the pair, unsurprisingly, have a very similar style of working. Come on now. In Charlie Dempsey, you can see a lot of the same old European catch wrestling that his father had been such a master of back in the day when he was at his peak. But this is only scratching the surface of the similarities between the two as it happens, because aside from just wrestling in a manner which mimics each other, both Dempsey and Regal also have a lot of the same mannerisms when it comes to their characters. What are those mannerisms? Well, while both can certainly get serious when the time calls for it, while they each have that tough, brutish quality, they can also lean into the comedy, specifically the pantomime theatrics that were so prevalent back in the old world of sport days. And this has allowed the rookie of the pair to stand out on the current NXT product, as he works very differently to most of his peers who have largely been brought up on the house WWE style. Really, the main question we have at this point then is how far will Charlie Dempsey be able to go with this style? We assume it'll take him to the main roster eventually, but will it see him reach the world title level that his dad was never able to fully ascend to in WWE? Maybe. Or maybe it'll instead see him remain at that wrestler's wrestler level, turning him into the kind of person who inspires the next generation again. Whatever happens, with William Regal serving as an excellent basis for him to build on, we're pretty confident the son of the OG villain will have a bright future ahead of him regardless, and he's not the only son of a legend who's currently a member of that Birthright stable. No, the exact same thing can be said about our next entry, Lexis King.
Now, I don't know I should put Lexis King in comparison with his dad. I thought it was LAIS, IS, not US, but yeah. But I wouldn't put him in comparison with Brian. Well, I guess depends. If it's Flying Brian, maybe, but Loose Cannon Brian, I don't think so. I don't think he has that. He had that loose cannon like persona as well too, though. So yeah.
And his older counterpart, Brian Pillman. That's right, it's another father-son duo, as in truth, the real name of Lexis King is Brian Pillman Jr., with that being the name he worked under in his prior role as part of the AEW roster. So for reasons which are obvious then, this is another perfect example of a legend and a modern-day counterpart. After all, King can't help but share some similarities with his dad, in physical appearance if nothing else. But it's not just about the look. No, there are also comparisons to be made in the other aspects of their work as well, with the young rookie from Cincinnati currently trying to build a character which will ideally gain him the same level of notoriety that the Loose Cannon created back in the day. Now, if you weren't watching at the time, the Loose Cannon was a gimmick developed by Brian Pillman back in the 90s which sought to blur the lines between reality and fiction to a point where no one knew quite what was real anymore, even his co-workers. And this led to a lot of situations where fans got very interested as the whole thing became more engaging than what was happening in the ring. Basically, it was an early precursor to the type of worked shoot angles which are so prevalent in the industry today, and which even became part of the WrestleMania main event build in 2026. Is Lexis King operating on that same level? No, we'd be lying if we said he was. But in creating his own version of this, he's attempting to forge his own path, as his character's goal is to get the most amount of heat possible whenever he appears in the ring. Really, like with others we've looked at today, at this point, it's just a question of whether or not this will take King to that next level eventually. Will he get that main roster call-up? And if he does, will he find success on either Raw or SmackDown, just like his father found success on the Red brand back in the day? We guess we'll just have to wait and see how things play out. And while we're waiting on that, we'll also be watching the continued career progression of one half of our next entries, someone who isn't a counterpart to his real-life father.
Alright, hold on a sec, I'll be right back. I'm back, but yeah, here we go. This Dirty MF Dom. Now, before we go there, I did a video about the rage, the blind hate thing, and I don't hate, I do not have a personal hate towards Dominic Gutierrez, the son of Oscar Gutierrez, aka Rey Mysterio, his real father. But you know, I can't stand Dirty Dom as a character. That's all. Other than that, let's keep going.
Such, or his kayfabe father. Who are we talking about here? Why, Dominic Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero, of course. Sure, there are comparisons to be made between Dominic Mysterio and his real-life dad, Rey Mysterio. After all, they both like to bust out some high-flying moves from time to time, and they both have similarities in their size and the way they use this size. But really, the character of Dirty Dom is very clearly built on what had already been set by Eddie Guerrero and his Latino Heat incarnation back in the day. After all, each man is defined by their sleazy charms, with both using these charms to often lie, cheat, and steal their way towards victory whether fans chose to cheer them or boo them. What else makes the Dom-Eddie comparison so great as a legend modern-day counterpart kind of situation? Well, there's the other obvious factor that both seem to have a weakness for muscular goth women, with Guerrero famously spending a lot of his WWE run courting his mamacita Chyna. And in a very similar manner, Mysterio carried on down the same path with his own mommy, Rhea Ripley, to the point that both relationships even ended up finishing the same way once the men involved got caught cheating. Still not enough of a comparison? Well, just look at the fact that Dirty Dom has taken so many moves from his kayfabe dad, including the frog splash. And add to that the look of the skeezy mustache and 80s style mullet, which seems tailor-made to draw heat. But as we mentioned a moment ago, it's not like Dominic is always booed when he comes out through the curtain. No, like with Eddie, someone else who also started off as a heel, he's just so charming in his roguishness that sometimes audiences will fall in love with him and will take to him as the babyface of the situation, as notably happened at WrestleMania 41. Sure, you could argue that Dom isn't as good of a wrestler as Eddie was, but then very few people are that good, maybe only a handful in history. So that's an unfair level to hold him to. When it comes to character though, he's about as close as we're ever going to get to having Latino heat back in the ring again in 2026. And as time goes on and he continues to grow in popularity, we could easily see this allowing Mysterio to fully ascend to that main event level in WWE. That's right, it could be a case that before the decade is out, he's winning a world title in the WWE system. It might seem far-fetched, but then few expected Eddie Guerrero to go all the way to the top of the mountain back in the 2000s, as he famously did when he beat Brock Lesnar at No Way Out 2004. But let's move away from the men for now and back over to the women again, as there are plenty of other comparison points between the present day and the past from that division, which we've yet to talk about today. In fact, one of the most noteworthy of these counterparts can be found in our next entry, as it's in this entry that we see the dual stories of both Lyra Valkyria and Bayley playing themselves out. Now, while it's somewhat gone forgotten today, given how many character shifts she's undergone during the intervening years, back when Bayley first arrived in WWE as part of the NXT roster during the mid-2010s, she was pretty much the purest version of a babyface you could get. So it comes as no surprise to learn that
and the main roster, aka Vince, somehow found a way to fuck that up. Oh my god, I'm still not getting over there. How this was handed to him on a platter, the best babyface gimmick ever, and they found a way to fuck it up. Main reason, and sadly, and the reason why a lot of folks don't like faces is because they're afraid of how they're gonna be booked. The fear of faces as well too. Fake media that's why it seems so rare when a face turn gets complimented. Right now, I said that with the recent story on Chad Gable's face turns getting a lot of praise as well too. Hopefully they put a trigger on that. as well. But now it's a rarity because a lot of time with the main roster, especially WWE, they don't book. They have this. I don't know why I have a hard time booking faces. I don't get it. I mean, but anyway, let's keep going.
This got her very over with fans, particularly with young girls who were watching. And while she has
Like her
evolved,
biggest fan, Izzy, who's also following her footsteps, and who's now following her in Bayley's footsteps as a wrestler herself now.
since that point, a lot of those same girls still idolize the role model, with this eventually leading to some of those performers deciding to lace up their own boots too. Enter Lyra Valkyria. You see, while she was first learning the ropes back in her native Ireland, the woman who goes by the real name of Aoife Cusack had a lot of inspirations. And one of the biggest of those inspirations was Bayley. Hell,
So Aoife is her real name, because if you don't know, her first wrestling name was Aoife Valkyrie, if I recall, though before she got Lyra Valkyria, which is because she debuted in NXT UK. Yeah, Aoife Valkyria was her name on NXT UK. Yup.
this was why, once she eventually made it to WWE herself, she'd already developed a very similar in-ring style to the Bay Area native. And that wasn't the only similarity she had either. No, in keeping with the idea that Lyra is a younger counterpart to Pamela Martinez, she's also got a lot of comparison points in her character too, with this being very much in the pure babyface mold, the underdog who is often underestimated, but who always fights for the fans and usually overcomes whatever is placed in front of her. That's what led to the Irish woman winning the NXT Women's title during her run on the developmental brand, just as Bayley did when she was there.
Yeah.
And it's also what's led Lyra to winning gold on the main roster too, again just like Bayley. Hell, so similar are they've even found a friendship which has led to them recently being paired up together on screen. And in that partnership, you can fully see the master-Padawan relationship on display, as the older of the two helps to mentor the younger into eventually turning into her final form, a woman who can ultimately win a world title on either Raw or SmackDown before all is said and done. When it comes to our next pair of entries, though, well, neither of them need to rise to the level of winning world titles anymore, as they're both already there. But even then, in the case of the younger counterpart, she still has a lot left to achieve in WWE. So it's just as well she has an excellent template to work from in the form of the legend she resembles most. Who are we talking about this time? Who else?
Now, this is a very interesting comparison here now. I never thought about that. A lot of people would expect Rhea be a counterpart to China, but that's actually an interesting comparison right there. Right there. I'm not knocking it at all. I'm not knocking that one. That's actually, it's just I never thought about that. That's actually pretty interesting. Because, China, China for background, because she came from, being, green when she first wrestled. But, she had some experience in wrestling. I think I remember that she did have a little bit of wrestling experience before she went to WF. If I'm lying. I might be wrong. I'm not sure. I know she came from bodybuilding as well too. Although Jay came more from fitness modeling. Before that, she was a ball player. She a basketball player in college as well too. But she got into fitness. That's why she got that crazy physique. So I can say that's not a bad comparison. To be honest, on the cool, it's not a bad comparison at all. But let's keep going.
But Jade Cargill and China. Yes, in both Jade Cargill and China, what you have is a very obvious comparison, as each woman was and is a complete physical specimen, with the former being one of the most jacked athletes on the current WWE roster, male or female, and the latter being more than worthy of the moniker the ninth wonder of the world. But while their muscles on top of muscles is certainly a way they serve as counterparts, it's not the only thing which makes the Florida native and the Rochester native alike. No, on top of that, there's also the presence that each woman had and has, that undeniable star quality which you just can't teach.
Right.
Look, we know it's easy to compare every powerhouse lady in modern day wrestling to China, as she was in many ways the benchmark for such a thing. So we could say similar things about the Rhea Ripleys, Jordan Graces, and Raquel Rodriguez's of the world. That said, Jade Cargill feels like a more apt pick if we're picking a current-day ninth wonder of the world, in part because she's presented as someone who few in her division have any chance when going up against. Hell, that was true of her time in both AEW and WWE, as in the former, she was the TBS champion for 508 days, and in the latter, she's a former WWE Women's Champion. Obviously then, like with her older counterpart, Jade has been a problem which most have been unable to solve thus far. And that's likely to be the case for a long time going forward, as she doesn't appear to be going anywhere soon. No, the Storm is most likely going to keep dominating WWE for several years yet. And if she carries on that same trajectory that was initially started by China, this might eventually even see her start hitting it up with the men at some point. And if she does maybe she even ends up winning the men's Intercontinental title, much in the same way her precursor.
She do have polish her skill. Well, she got better, despite her being a heel. She has gotten better. So yeah.
So famously did during the late 90s. But even if this never happens, the comparison between Jade and China remains strong, as there really is no one better placed in the current WWE system to serve as a modern-day counterpart to the most dominating woman of the turn of the millennium period. Of course, big powerhouse acts and their modern-day counterparts isn't just a phenomenon that's limited to the ladies, though.
Of course not.
No, the men in WWE have plenty of examples of this happening too. And if you're looking for one of the best phenomenon in that division, you need to only look toward our next entry.
Even their theme song sounded like yes. And this is my dude. And I was a fan of
Hank and Tank.
Yes. And I'm a fan of both as well too. Before Tucky turned on the boy. Yes. This is a good comparison. And even like I said, even their theme song sounded like too, yo, for real. And I like it, man. And I like what they're doing, man. I mean, now, granted, if they ever get out, if Hank Tank ever get out the NXT, I doubt it. I mean, but I'll be happy they do as well too when they book right. But still, yes, great comparison right here.
And their inspirations, Heavy Machinery. Now, the powerhouse tag team is most certainly nothing new in wrestling.
Of course not.
Hell, if you go back to the territory days, then you'll find acts like the Road Warriors
until he survived with the porn stash.
Or Power and Glory making entire careers out of this shtick. All of this is to say then, it's a gimmick which works, and that's why it keeps coming back.
Tucker!
Back at the end of the
oh my god, missed them together. Oh, this is with Tucker, like, as how you say, Tucker! I should have missed that, man. It was so cool, man. I was mad that they broke about just to screw Otis over with having Money in the Bank, man.
2010s, the duo making use of it was Heavy Machinery. Who were Heavy Machinery? Well, they were the collective of Otis and Tucker, two big, burly men who looked like the natural disasters brought into the new decade. And with the sheer power they had, they were able to make short work of most of their opponents at the time. Sadly, though, the run of this team would be relatively short-lived, as it would be in 2020 that Tucker turned on his partner and sent both men on different paths forever thereafter. But that wouldn't be the end of such teams in WWE for good. Now, as things stand today, there is another down in NXT who has picked up that mantle, one which goes by the name of Hank and Tank. Unsurprisingly then, this is the pairing made up of Hank Walker and Tank.
That moment right here, I always love that moment when Joe hit. They called for Joe here to help him out. That was so
Ledger,
awesome.
Two similar powerhouses who have made NXT their stomping grounds in recent years. And like how Heavy Machinery once dominated that scene, they've been doing similar work by annihilating pretty much everyone in their path. So much has this been the case, in fact, they're already one-time NXT Tag Team Champions. Hell, again,
that is definitely strong myself that carry even Zarya, man.
And like with their precursors, they've been doing this in a manner which shows off their deceptive athleticism, all while maintaining their blue-collar energy. Really then, the only question left at this point...
And you may not know that they are literally... Well, I'm not sure they're based off... They're still based in that gimmick, though, but they are literally guys who were... Because you know the story about Russ, and especially NXT star wrestling in general, that they'll start off as security or official as well too. So that's like guys like now who are like big time do they think in the main roster like Oba Femi, Braun Breaker, Trick Williams, everything was security was NXT security as well too. They were literally that, and they literally the story started with Hank being the story that of a security guard getting becoming a wrestler because he got to with the time Big Bang Javi, I forgot his name was, but anyway, what's Big Bang Javi real name again? What's his actual wrestling name? Javi, W Javier. Anyway, he got into it. Javier Burnell, and at the time when he had a little, he came out to help out with the security with Isha Nofe and Schism, the group that was the Grizzly Young veteran with Joe Gacy and what's the name, Ava. Tank was part of the security that was helping, was encouraging Hank to keep wrestling, and then he became a wrestler himself. And the cool part about it is when they went against what was it, the Good Brothers as well too, and it's in Gallows. The security came out, looked like these trying to break him up. Instead, they gave him a high five as well too, and then protect him from Anderson and Gallows for attacking him. That was a cool moment right there as well too. But yeah, I like how they started. They kayfabe into how NXT stars really are the star security and then become wrestlers themselves. Yeah, I like that.
Will Hank and Tank eventually make it up to the main roster as a tag team? And if they do, will they last longer together there than Heavy Machinery did? If they can do this, they'll likely be able to win more tag team gold either on Raw or SmackDown. Yes, we could be looking at the start of a very lengthy run for this duo as the most all-consuming force the WWE tag team division has seen in a long time. And while they're doing that in duos action, over on the singles side, it'll be another present-day NXT star who'll be looking to stake his claim as a top guy by aping his older counterpart even further. So let's look at them now then, Miles Bourne and Randy Orton.
Yup.
Yes, one look at Miles Bourne will tell you exactly why he's received so many comparisons to Randy Orton already.
They called Baby Orton, they was calling Baby Orton, and the club's calling Randy Jr., man. It was crazy, yo. Even the crowd, I think the crowd at one point was yelling Baby Orton on Randy Jr. or something like that.
After all, the two look pretty similar, to put it mildly, as they have the exact same physique and the exact same shaved head.
And
of course, if it was just looks that joined them together, then this wouldn't be enough to have Miles and Randy be considered true counterparts. No, it has to be more than that. And more it is most certainly in this case, as in the younger act what we have is someone who also exhibits a lot of the same in-ring style as the 14-time world champion. Yes, in each of these performers, you have someone who has a very methodical style and pace, with them eschewing much of the high-flying theatrics you'd find elsewhere. And with both being deceptively strong too, they have that ace card to pull out whenever necessary. Honestly, were it not for the fact that Randy was almost 20 years older, we wouldn't be entirely convinced they weren't the same person.
Right.
But they absolutely aren't the same person. Rather, in Miles Bourne and Randy Orton, it's just one of the better examples of the next generation taking a lot from the prior one and hopefully building upon it as time goes on to make something even better. Come on now, the rookie has already won the North American Championship once, so he's no stranger to having gold around his waist. If he can make it up to the main roster sooner rather than later, then he might be able to get some world title gold before too much time has passed. And this could put him in good standing to start chasing that milestone of 14 go-arounds on top himself. But even if that doesn't happen, the idea that each of these performers are almost perfect counterparts to one another still stands.
And he'll make history since he'll be being half deaf as well too.
Bourne's career continues, that comparison is only going to look more and more apt as he rises higher and higher up the ladder. And if he keeps progressing the way he is, it's going to be a very good thing for WWE. But then the same could be said about everyone we've looked at today, because, in being the modern counterparts to so many other legendary figures, they're showing that the future of the WWE is going to be secure from a talent perspective for decades to come.
Yep, it's facts too. I still have faith in WWE, hopefully they get stuff together, but I still have faith in them as well too. But other than that, though, definitely a good video about the counterparts as well too. Some was kind of shocking. I think the most shocking was definitely low-key Jaden compared to China. I mean, but at the same time, I wasn't mad at it all too. I was surprised that they put Hecate with on here as well too with him and Shidri, and they do as they done have remind me of them as well too, but. Who else they have? And Eddie, yeah, of course, we should have saw that coming. Lyra and the Bailey was pretty interesting as well too. But Owen and Brock, that was like an interesting comparison as well. But yeah, other than that though, I feel like it's not just them; it's more as well too. And Braun Breaker compared to a little mixture of Scott Steiner, but more so Goldberg. Well, in a way. Let's say LA Knight be a mixture of both Rock and Stone Cold. I mean, I think they should. Hold on. I think they should have a part two, but who knows? Other than that, though, shout out to Wrestling Eddie. I mean, it's been a minute. I did some of his videos. Anyways, your boy T-Bird signing off. One love.